これ使ってみよ
う。何なの？
マッサージ機。
神経をマッサージする機械。
Ah, geez, this isn't getting monetized. Hey kids, I'm Michael Keene, and welcome to my YouTube channel, wherein I talk about, cinema. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. You know, if there's one thing that I like more than completing my mini quests to watch and become immersed into various subgenres of cinema, it's forgetting all about them and starting new ones. So I thought, hey, it's Valentine's Day, if I'm editing this fast enough. So what if we get a little freaky?
My tastes are very singular.
No. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, you sweet summer child. No, we're breaking open the hard stuff today and digging into the land of the rising sun. Japan. I'm talking about Japan. It's rape porn.
Enlighten me then.
Specifically, we're taking a dive into the pinku eiga genre. Pinku eiga? I don't know, I don't speak Japanese. The pink movies, a term which amounts to a pretty large umbrella of content, if we're being honest. It's basically anything that involves nudity or sex, but does not go into the hardcore realm, I should note that. There's a ton of them, including the Female Prisoner Scorpion series, which is honestly just solid work all around. The recently released on Blu-ray Haunted Turkish Bathhouse, which features a prolonged rope bondage scene before we ever get to literal cat lady murder shenanigans. That's also a notable pinku eiga or pinky film, or just pink film, pink stuff. Because of vaginas, you get it. Vaginas and nipple, the pink. Hell, Lady Snowblood, a film in the Criterion Collection, is a pink film. So obviously, it's not just complete softcore pornographic sleaze that we're talking about, is what any other YouTuber would say. Now, we're not talking about all that bullshit, no sir. We're talking about one filmmaker in particular, actually, and that is Hisayasu Satō, which I'm assuming I'm saying right. I don't know. I'm very bad at pronunciation. This whole video is going to be a nightmare. I could have gone with other Japanese purveyors of sleaze like Koji Wakamatsu, or I could have focused on the great In the Realm of the Senses from director Nagisa Oshima, which is not only one of the absolute goats of Japanese cinema, but is also in the Criterion Collection. Y'all, between these and Salo, I'm starting to think there's more going on in that closet than they admit to. Anyway, why Hisayasu Satō? Quite simply, he was the first one I found whose resume includes homoeroticism and bestiality. That's, look, I'm a simple man. You show me a movie called Neigh Means Yes, I watch it. So, let's take a look at 6 films from a man known for his, quote, sledgehammer filmmaking style, starting with Neigh Means Yes.
ねえ、何？
うまっ。
Yeah, I'm starting with the horse fucking movie. Believe it or not, this is the mild shit. Just wait until number 6. It's gonna get extreme. And actually, let's just set a rule real quick. These are going to be fairly spoiler heavy, with some exceptions, but for those looking to skip spoilers, I will have timestamps in the description and in the video's little timeline thingy, so use that to skip if you don't want them sweet, sweet deets. Anyway, Neigh Means Yes, a 59-minute film about exactly what you think it is. Or is it? Well, it kind of is. We start with a woman and a horse, both draped in darkness, as the woman is... Crap, I already said the R word once. Oh, I don't want to get this video... I mean, like, it's not going to be monetized, but it'd be cool if it wasn't, like, buried completely. I need a substitute word so YouTube doesn't, you know, just 6 feet under this thing. She gets Care Bear stared. Why is that the first thing that came to my mind? Jesus Christ. So anyway, the first like 3 minutes of Neigh Means Yes are pretty much impossible to fully grasp because the video quality is just, it's too dark. And I checked. I could not find a single better transfer of this film, and while sure, that would normally be a problem, this is a movie that starts with a woman being Care Bear stared by a horse, so you know, I'll give the video quality a mulligan. Not that it would help the abstract nature of Neigh Means Yes, otherwise known as Lady of the Stable. The story begins with a woman who can hear the voice of a horse in her head, but it's not a horse. She asks a man who at first I thought was wearing some VR headset, but I think it's meant to be like night vision goggles to help her record the voices. So right off the top, we're dealing with some almost folk horror meets cyberpunk bullshit just after we've heard, more than seen, a woman copulate with a horse. Anyway, this guy and his crew and their aggressive collection of mannequins, I guess, head to a seaside town to meet the woman. Hey guys, editor Michael here real quick. I made a dumb here, and this is just me being an idiot. For some reason, I thought this troupe of experimental filmmaker people, these artists, were also associated with the sound guy, and they are two separate things. And I was confused through the entire movie about this because they seemed to not really be interacting with each other so much, and it turns out that they are the sort of antagonists in this film, and I just, for some reason, at the top, got befuddled. So yeah, back to the video. Turns out the woman was present at an acoustic research project, although not much more is explained about that setup, other than that she hears the voices of horses, and this dude is mighty intrigued by the prospect. We learn that the woman has lived here by herself for her whole life, quit school after an accident, and basically just takes care of this horse stable, which is extremely close to the beach, and that is odd. Within the first 10 minutes, it's obvious this film is more than its punny title would suggest. Now, our first proper sex sequence comes around the 13-minute mark, and even it is, I mean, I guess fucking a horse is a proper sex sequence. The first we can see. But even it is undercut by high strangeness. It's lit by moonlight, and I think the group's RV, while the whole thing is captured on tape. Again, giving what is ostensibly supposed to be an erotic sequence a strange, creepy feel. This dovetails into a separate scene with the horse lady in the stable covering her body in blood from... You know, it's pretty dark, but it's a severed horse cock. Cool! Again, it's so dark and the filmmaking is so abstract that it's hard to tell. I'd show you some footage, but you understand.
何してる？
心臓の音が聞きたかった。でも聞こえなかった。
僕は馬じゃない。
Okay, so now I gotta confess, this thing gets confusing. There's a mirror, the aforementioned severed horsecock in a jar, plus some eyeballs, because why not? Talk of biorhythms, mannequins buried in the sand, some girls from a horse racing club, I guess, massaging of horse genitals, which is, by the way, once again, so dark I could probably show it on screen and not get a strike, but I ain't gonna. And at this point, we've hit the half-hour mark. Say what you will, economy of story is not an issue here. Past this point, however, things get more confusing, thanks primarily to the shitty video quality, but aiding that is Satō's experimental approach. There is definitely a Care Bear stare moment, and I think it's the horse chick, but fuck if I could say for certain. Anyway, it keeps going, and while the vibes are there, it's just such a challenge to understand what's happening. We do get a story about the horse chick getting Care Bear stared by poachers, and I think the idea is that they used the severed horse cock, and that gave her the ability to communicate with horses and pick up on biorhythms? Maybe?
それからウェーブを操れるようになった。
馬の霊のことか。
あんた、この鏡のこと、カメラだって言ったけど、私のしゃがん体みたいな気がする。
I tell you, man, borderline dream logic on copy of a copy of a copy of a copy VHS is tough. She does kill her Care Bear starers in the end, and I think the audio guy steals a broken mirror? Question mark. Then finds the horse chick in Tokyo, and she kills him? I don't know. There's an interesting analogy about horse blinkers that I think relates to Sato's views on modern city life, but I mean, just look at these shots. It's a mess of a transfer, but the vibes are strong, and Satō is definitely saying something here about alienation and urban versus country living. It's lost in the noise, man.
君みたいに音に対して異常に敏感で、ここで暮らしてたら神経をやられてしまう子はいっぱいいるんだ。
If someone could please find like at least a first generation tape of this fucker, I would be super happy. I can already tell this is going to be an unofficial entry in my This Needs a Blu-ray series. Good lord. Very good film from what I could tell of it. Okay, all right. Let's get to the gay porn already. I hear you. I know what the people want. Muscle starts with Ryuzaki. Again, assuming I'm saying the name right. Just trust me. I suck at these. Don't mention anything in the comments. I don't need your shit. I'm just bad at foreign things because I'm an American. That's quintessential. Muscle starts with Ryuzaki, the editor for a gay muscle mag called Muscle, and his relationship with his bodybuilder lover Katami, who it turns out is a bit of a sick puppy. Unable to take all that sadistic sexual junk, Ryuzaki attacks Katami with a freaking sword, cutting off his arm, and boom, 1 year later. Strong start. Under 7 minutes in, and we have gay sexy times, posing muscle boy, sadism, and attempted murder. Satō, he makes his inspirations crystal clear from the top. There's a Pasolini retrospective poster that strikes up a whole conversation early on and suggests that the film might be a period piece, which actually tracks even if the production design doesn't go out of its way to push this idea. Upon getting out of prison, during which Satō was apparently released, Ryuzaki tries to find and make amends with his former lover. During his journey, he also attempts to see Satō, but laments that it hasn't been released in Japan and isn't on video. Now, seeing as this is shortly after Salo's release, it's conceivable that we're in 1975 or 76, which are the years Betamax and VHS first hit, with U-matic tape having already gained some traction in the early 70s. However, home video as a radical widespread phenomenon, as far as I know, wouldn't really make waves until the early 80s. So it's plausible, but the idea that someone in 1976 would casually show frustration at Satō not being on tape is a bit hard to swallow. Whatever, if I can work with dream logic, I can work with whatever the fucking timeline here is. Also, he has his lover's arm preserved in a jar. Wacky. Satō, I'm starting to get you, pal. I'm starting to pick up on them motifs.
いい本だったよな。俺はな、鍛えられた男の体は美しいと思ってる。
夢見たんです。あの男の。
Now, if you're curious, no, there's no actual peen in what is ostensibly a gay porno, gay softcore porno. In fact, it's barely softcore porn. Sure, we get prolonged scenes of eroticism and lots of close-ups of teeny tiny skivvies, but this is still Japan, and these are still pink films rather than full-on hardcore joints. Beyond that, though, what we get here is more a psychosexual drama. Just, a psychosexual drama in which characters dream of sadistic butterplay. Yeah. Ryuzaki explores the city in search of the archetypal one-armed man and even prints out flyers featuring a picture of the freaking severed arm like it's a fucked up Craigslist misconnection ad. He also is sent Salo, but it's in PAL format, womp womp, which as far as I'm concerned is a proper conflict for the whole movie. But Satō insists on spending more time hunting for a one-armed bodybuilder. At one point I thought we were getting a mannequin, but it's just a guy with a stocking over his head. This scene does evoke more of the Sadian influences. I just realized Satō and Sad kinda, I guess I should really hit the T in Satō. Anyway, this scene does evoke more of the Sadian theatrics referenced by the use of Salo as the postmodern intertextual reference point throughout. The ending of this sequence kind of foreshadows Eyes Wide Shut, as Ryuzaki is found out as the interloper of the group of masked sex pests. It's here that he finally comes face to face with his one-armed ex-lover, who is still, shock and awe, a huge asshole. But then this scene asks a great question. Who's the real asshole in this situation? Follow me here. Ryuzaki kills a guy just because he's lying about a family story.
手に映画の話を盗むなよ。
Ryuzaki also sets this all into motion not by breaking up with Katami, no, but by attacking him with a sword, after seemingly getting with him not for who he was, but how he looked. He drones on in self-pity, but at the end of the day, Ryuzaki's kind of a dick, and in the end, he gets his just desserts. He cut off the arm of a bodybuilder, and he, a lustful magazine editor consumed by lust for, well, muscles, is forced to blind himself with a sword. Karma, bitch. In this initial viewing, I'm probably missing some other subtext or looking past some bit of important dialogue, but it always pleases me to finish a film with a heap of questions and the satisfaction of new bonkers vibes. And that's exactly what Muscle does, all the way to the final shot, which, it should be noted, is a direct homage to the final shot of Pasolini's Salo. This is one I will definitely have to revisit in the near future after a rewatch of that film. Either way, 2 movies in, and I'm already a huge fan of this director. So, let's move on to... Oh boy. Boy. Oh boy. I'm just gonna say it again. Office Lady Rape, Devouring the Giant Tits. Starts with mannequin hand in white paint ASMR. Oh, sorry, no. Mannequin hand in white paint fondling massive Japanese girl titties. ASMR. And then there's a driller killer. Satō, you giving me whiplash here, guy. I kind of like it. No, it would seem that the drill is more metaphorical, at least for now. See, our hot young thang this go-around, played by Shiina Ito, was once a flat-chested girl, but has since had plastic surgery. She now carries around the ultimate double-edged sword, a pair of bazoombas. Big-titted girls, you just lean against your window like this all the time, right? Anyway, she gets Care Bear stared by this psycho who just can't help himself. He sees a milkmaid, he's got to suckle, you feel me? Anyway, he does a little more than suckling. We get an eye full of pixels and... Oh, come on! Look, I can't show you this, but dude puts his fingers in there and realizes she was a virgin, and then he takes the blood and he smears it all over her tit, and it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. I kind of feel bad calling them bazoombas now. Like, Jesus. Anyway, she washes off her bazoombas and decides, you know what, maybe breast implants weren't such a good idea. Then she fingers herself in the shower. Trauma. So the next day, the dude's son finds her and apologizes for his dad performing the Care Bear stare. But she's not interested in his apology, and she's a little peeved that the little shit didn't do anything to stop Daddy-O from pulling an unwanted love a lot. Then, Okay, 2 questions. 1, why did these guys have a mannequin in the bathroom? And 2, is this a normal thing in Japan? Dude and his adult son bathing each other? You know, like, no judgment, just... What? That's not a normal custom. Also, Kiddo references Kafka's Metamorphosis. This is high art, people. High art. So then, this fucking guy, he finds her again, brings along his dad, calls her his dad's E-cup Madonna, and leaves them alone in a playground. Come on! Then she hits him in the head with a hammer. Sadly, this isn't the end. He winds up still humiliating her, and it turns into a meet cute wherein he suggests they start over as if nothing happened. Then she uses a vibrator for several minutes. Japan.
私レイプちょっと憧れちゃうな。彼と違って荒々しくなんかゾクゾクしちゃう。私もあんたみたいに魅力的なボディ持ってたら襲われちゃうかもね。
What the fuck? Long story short, our fair lady of the bazoombas goes wackadoo, dons a ski mask, grabs a power drill, and tortures various women who also had plastic surgery. And what's worse, the father and son join her.
あんたの息子どうして逃げたのよ。
私の暴行を見たくなかった。それに怖かったんだろう。
Bit of a dark turn for a film that starts with a deflowering Care Bear stare. The son winds up, I guess, going a little batty due to the weird family dynamic that starts forming with his dad and Big Tits McGee. And Care Bear stares to death a girl who won a small tits competition. Which is silly, A, because such a thing exists in this world, but B, because we get a lot of close-ups of her assets, and frankly, she should have been disqualified. Then Daddy-O, he does, I don't know, condiment bondage? It's a nauseating scene. And then she suffocates him with her tits. Which, you know, kind of just how this has to end, right? And that really is the end. We get a quick bit of artsy bullshit to show the son has been driven properly Looney Tunes, and bada bing bada boom, you got yourself a movie. And that's cinema, baby. Simply put, Office Lady Rape Devouring the Giant Tits is an interesting case of what should be the lowest possible form of entertainment, instead given a horrific postmodernist twist that sure won't be for everyone, but given the first movie we discussed was horse fucking, I feel like we're past that point. While I did appreciate Sato's style and the outlandish narrative, and the fact that the whole thing is kind of just a big joke, I do think it fails quite a bit in defining the character, something that would have given the humor a lot more weight. You know, like those hefty bazoombas. Hey-yo! Still got it. I'm going to hell. Alright, so thus far things have gotten pretty wild, but overall I gotta say, Sato's films have been so artistically inclined and filled with fascinating dissections of society, and also titties, that I haven't been as appalled by the content as I thought I would be. So let's try one titled Rough Sex. A lot of pink films were roughies, so surely that'll be a little bit more filled with Care Bear stares and really get me rethinking my decisions. It's a weird way to spell rough. So this one starts with some guy pulling a woman out of the ocean and taking her to his little shack on the beach. Okay, guys, I wasn't born yesterday. I think I know where this is going. He takes some Polaroids and, oh, the title screen. Cool. See, a lot of these films have alternate titles, so this is always fun. Let's see. The alternate title for Rough Sex is Horsewoman Dog. Oh my god, get that horse off the beach now! So this broad is getting lots of love by two dudes while a dominatrix-type chick, their queen as it were, watches and eventually joins in with her whip and generally happy-go-lucky demeanor. And, oh! There's the mayo and jam. Cool, cool, cool. No. That's why it's spelled R-U-F-F. Rough sex. Rough. Oh, and he's licking her cooch. Not a fan of this. Anyway, the beach lady is told that this horse from before belongs to the queen, who we come to learn is the ruler of this dinky little island, wherein she keeps a small harem of menfolk to do her bidding and satisfy her incredible lust. But hey, you can't just be banging dudes and torturing broads all day. Nah, you gotta get some diversity in there, and by diversity I mean dogs and horses, and boy howdy, does this thing make up for the shit VHS quality of Neigh Means Yes. There's definitely much more going on under the surface here, however. Much like the last three films, we get some haunting imagery and strange occurrences. For example, just before our beach dame is taken in by the queen, she sees another young woman has washed up on shore. This one's dead, the same girl we saw brutally Care Bear stared earlier, and once again our beach guy takes Polaroids, this time carefully peeling back what little of her shirt is still covering her dignity. Sort of like Jude Law in Road to Perdition, except he fucks dead bodies. Good. One thing I do find delightful about the sex in these films is how outrageous the pixelation gets, handily getting around the fact that there's obviously not a single ounce of penetration in them. Like, It's kind of insane just how pixelated it gets, often to the point of hilarity. And frankly, that just can't be a coincidence. If there's one thing I've learned so far, it's that Satō is a smart dude with a warped sense of humor, and creating seemingly hardcore sex out of pixels and gross-sounding Foley work seems like his bag. I could be wrong, I guess, but it's not like the censorship process was anything new or that he would have been ignorant toward. Then there's this exchange.
この辺は潮の関係でよく水死体が上がるんだよな。
あの家の入り口。
そうかもしれないな。馬もいるし。
馬？
馬はあの家の案内人だって何かで読んだことがある。
There's always got to be a twist. The twist is that they're in hell. Obviously, being a film produced by famed pink film company Shintoho Eiga, this was made with the objective purpose of showing some seriously sleazy bullshit and maybe get a few kinky boys' rocks off. But it's clear that Satō, at the very least, wants to do more than that and decided more or less from the start to use the funding for pink films to indulge his favorite themes and sense of humor. It does help that one of those themes is voyeurism. This is a lot like how Spanish filmmaker and my personal god king Jess Franco worked in the 70s and 80s, tackling strict anti-pornography laws and antiquated international obscenity guidelines in his work. The films were paid for by producers like Erwin C. Dietrich to be cheap fuck flicks, but Franco often injected them with his own interests in literature, film noir, anti-establishmentism, feminist creeds, and Lina Romay's pussy. Now, none of this is to say Satō didn't get off on any of this, but rather his interests lay beyond simple fuck flicks, and that these are more a means to an end. Going back to Franco, because I can't help myself, Uncle Jess didn't make erotic films because that was all he wanted to do. He did them because he admired the female form, and they were what producers were funding. They were also skirting a line, allowing audiences in Europe to see highly sexual scenes without running into hardcore pornography laws of the time. I could go deeper here into his psychology and need to always be filming, but suffice it to say, dude took what he could get and most of the time managed to add his own personal touch. It's interesting to note that when pornography laws relaxed in the 80s and the industry started to boom in Europe, Franco didn't take to the new hardcore format as well as he did the films where people mashed their mouths together like Barbie dolls. His hardcore film White Skin, Black Thighs, which, based on that title, should be an absolute riot, is actually super boring and poorly made, the work of a man who just isn't interested in this kind of material, or freedom for that matter. He, like Satō, I believe, relished the restrictions of censorship and used them to his advantage. Lulu's Talking Ass, his film about Lina Romay's asshole being jealous of her vagina, yes, it is a real thing, is also a bit of a snooze and shows a distinct lack of care. This is also when he was essentially being forced into the porn system in Spain, which was basically just like grind him out, and he was not into that. He was a storyteller, utilizing the sex film industry much like how Satō used these tales of taboo-breaking cruelty to further his own interests in alienation, voyeurism, urban decay, postmodernism, and horror, amongst others. And sure enough, here in Rough Sex, or Horsewoman Dog, or Sato's preferred title, Poaching on the Beach, we get quite a bit of this. The postmodernism is primarily focused on little things, like our evil queen looking at the audience while a woman is being Care Bear stared, while the horror of this maybe being the netherworld is given much more time than you'd expect in what is ostensibly a bestiality flick. In fact, I know I made a joke about the horse action here, but for what it's worth, that only comes to play in the last 10 minutes of the film. Now, that said, it really does come into play. Again, however, Satō uses censorship to his advantage. While horse-on-lady intercourse is presented to the viewer, it's impossible to get any of it actually happening. It's implied through pixelation and sound. This might be my generous nature, but I've seen Jackass 2. There's very little chance any actress is going to allow a horse to jam its Pringles can into her coin purse, if you catch my drift. It's all an illusion. Even when our evil queen is massaging the horse's junk to get it ready, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an actual My Big Boy Pony down there, but the way it's shot, I don't know, man, it looks like a trick of editing and shot composition to me. There's literally a shot that is nothing but pixels. It's kind of brilliant, operating entirely on the audience's imagination, be it in disgust or pleasure. There's even a very iffy cum shot that looks as if it's being created through a spray bottle slightly off screen. This is also 1990, so we're still in the age of word of mouth. You don't have to shoot horse sex, you just need to be able to advertise that you did. Anyway, this scene ends with the queen identifying a birthmark on the beach lady's foot, which, according to our would-be heroine, only appears when she's aroused. Just can't help themselves. Turns out she's the queen's sister, and the queen gets the same mark when she drinks. The queen had killed her and placed her body in the open sea, but somehow she's come back. This leads to the queen being shot by our necrophiliac beach guy, and a final confrontation between necrophile man and beach chick.
漂着物なし.
Yeah, pretty sure this is just the netherworld, with the twist being that our heroine is the new queen, herself a pawn in a loop of death and degradation, or something, I don't know. Like I mentioned before, I'm only watching each of these once for this video, so if you're a Satō fan, please sound off in the comments with your own interpretation. I'll revisit them later. Okie doke, we're in the home stretch now. In the interest of the best possible overview of Satō's career, these last two are ones that I saw talked about more than others as possibly his best films. They might not be entirely accurate, but at the very least, they come up a lot. First, we've got Unfaithful Wife, Shameful Torture, otherwise known as The Bedroom. This one starts with some unseen figure using spray paint to block a security camera, cutting directly into a naked woman wrapped in plastic, while Aria for the Eyes plays. We see nearby a bottle of Halcyon, which is a name for triazolam, which is a depressant tranquilizer for the central nervous system, i.e. it puts you to sleep real good. And that, my friends, that's called visual storytelling. I love the label, by the way. He does this in all of his movies whenever there's like a label on medicine. It's just a handwritten little sticker. I love it. So we then cut to a video screen, which I've been told is a bit of a motif in Satō's work. There's even a video of another screen playing. It's wild stuff. We learn that this woman is Maya, sister of this quirky broad, Kyoko, who's enjoying time with her boyfriend, Kai, who was previously Maya's boyfriend and suggests she maybe just had a drug overdose. Pretty quickly, we see Kyoko maybe possibly go to the sleeping room, where we can pretty easily ascertain Maya had also gone. There, she takes Halcyon and her sleeping body is molested. Again, Japan. In a narratively kind of confusing moment, we also reveal that she's married to Asaka after that initial sleeping room interlude, and we see that she's in a pretty unhappy marriage, which she mediates with her side piece and trips to the sleeping room. It seems that the only way for Kyoko to feel much of anything is to become objectified by nameless strangers while unconscious, and even when we see her having sex with her boyfriend, he has her wear a blindfold. Shortly after that encounter, we also learn that he takes Halcyon to sleep, which, very interesting.
One other thing.
Perhaps the most appalling thing about this film is that it features a brief but memorable turn from Issei Sagawa. If you don't know who that is, basically he's a Japanese man who killed his Dutch classmate in Paris, ate parts of her body, and then through a series of really dumb legal loopholes, wound up residing freely in his native country where he was, shock and awe, a minor celebrity. Big yikes. Side note, turns out he died last year. Good for him. Outside of that bizarre cameo and obviously the deaths of various girls, however, there's really not much in the way of the disturbing elements I've seen thus far. There is a seemingly requisite Care Bear stare moment, which is made thematically relevant when Kyoko notices a security camera that presumably captured the entire incident, which itself seems like Satō employing his distrust of major cities. Beyond that moment, Satō seems far more interested in experimenting with the form and studying this lonely, alienated woman who insists on keeping a video diary of her entire day, which, certainly ahead of its time in that regard. After the aforementioned Care Bear stare, Kyoko is inspired to take a gander at Kai's own video diaries, which includes a video of Maya in the sleeping room. Oh, and I'm not sure of the significance of this, if any, but, Kai eats lettuce really weird. As with Neigh Means Yes, there is a point where I found the bedroom to be pretty tough to follow in detail, and I had to let the vibes take over. In this instance, it had nothing to do with transfer quality, entirely to do with the dreamlike nature of the film. It's difficult enough to figure out if the sleeping room is even real, or a construct of a woman desperately in need of emotional satisfaction. Her various sex scenes and a handful of conversations with Kai seem to push the idea that her issue isn't physical intimacy, but communication itself. She's alone in a city devoid of social interaction, save for this one other girl from the sleeping room and, to some extent, Kai. Around the start of the third act, we get this scene, a Coke bottle shard recreation of that scene, that one scene from Aliens, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna let you decide whether or not you want to watch this yourself, and insist you hold out for that viewing. Those last few minutes are bonkers. There's a needlessly convoluted twist, some trippy nightmare bullshit, and what feels like a very direct reference to David Lynch's Lost Highway, despite that film coming out 5 years later. Kyoko, by the way, is played by Kiyomi Ito, who appears in a lot of Sato's work, including Muscle, and she's great. I love her, and I can't wait to watch more of her movies. Not because I'm a pervert. Mostly not because I'm a pervert. Let's move on to the next one. And so finally we come to 1996's Splatter Naked Blood, which I picked because it was at the top of Sato's Letterboxd filmography and because it's about a drug that turns pleasure into pain. Which, you know, that means we're getting into guinea pig territory. Right? Interestingly, Naked Blood seems to take place slightly in the future. It was released in February of 1996, but at the top of the film, we see our scientist boy character Eiji, I'm gonna say Eiji, placing his research in July of 1997. He explains through these notes that he's created the ultimate painkiller for humans, which he's calling My Son. Based on that name and a photo of the bottle he uses for the medicine, it's pretty obvious our guy has a few daddy issues. Presumably one of those issues was never being taught not to ride a bike with headphones on and no helmet, you reckless little shit. Anyway, Eiji visits his scientist mother, who's about to start some drug trials of her own for some mainstream pharmaceutical meant for contraception. She doesn't want him to stick around for the trials, which he seems desperate to watch, and she refuses. Well, Eiji is kind of a little shit, and he taints the IVs with My Son, which is set to be given to 3 beautiful young women. Ruh-roh, Raggy. The drugs are administered to the 3 women as Eiji watches from a nearby rooftop, and they're sent home perfectly fine, for the moment. They go out to eat, and one, Rika, explains that ever since she got her first period, she can't sleep. Weird detail, let's see where this goes. Then there's this fat bitch. Okay, so we have a woman whose Aunt Flo keeps her awake, a gluttonous woman who's credited as gluttonous woman, and this chick who's just kind of vain. Oh yeah, it says right there, vain woman. Got it. Anyway, Rika, she lives with the cactus she talks to, and yeah, I know, and which wears some sort of headset connected to a machine that in turn connects to her own headset. And you know, at this point in my marathon, that just seems mighty normal. She also has dreams of her younger self in public, randomly covered in blood, and running away from some unseen entity, which, subtle. While having dinner with his mother, we also learn that Eiji's father had predicted he would become a great scientist. Presumably this and his mother's occupation are meant to tie into a sense of pressure to be perfect from the outside, maybe even relating to the karoshi problem in Japan, but I can't say that's really explored in any depth, so that might be a stretch. Either which way, a lot of pressure on the kid. Instead, we focus more on Eiji's creepy-ass stalking of Rika. Bruh, where'd you learn game? Hustlers University? But hey, fuck me, kinda works. She takes him to some garden where she explains her insomnia, which also gives her hypersensitive hearing, sure, which has made her hate most living things and consider suicide. Red flag, buddy. Red flag. And good lord, she even takes him back to her place, where she explains the cactus machine. Also, apparently cactuses don't talk, and so she can dream along with the cactus, but not other plants. Y'all, this is amazing. I love that all Satō had to do was make a fucked up mad scientist movie, and he can't even do that without getting into psychosexual horror and high concept sci-fi. Bravo, my man. Bravo. Meanwhile, vain girl is all like being vain and junk, plucking armpit hair like you do, and gluttonous girl is being gluttonous, I guess. And uh-oh, little Miss Loves Food accidentally cuts herself and discovers that even she tastes pretty good. Both of those broads, shock and awe, have a bad time. Or do they? The drug mix-up has turned pain into pleasure for both of them, so I guess good job, E.G. Unfortunately, this leads to the scenes this movie is famous for. We get hand tempura, extreme body piercing, labia munching, nipple nibbling, and in the most famous shot of all, a tasty eyeball entree. And boy howdy, it's not nearly as appetizing as it sounds. Also turns out that E.G.'s father was more than just a scientist. He had been experimenting with a wired-up brain in a search for eternal life. Which, sure. E.G.'s relationship with his mother is super conflicted due to his belief that she should have been more supportive of her husband, but then not sure we should be listening to a dude who just types a woman's name repeatedly while sequestering himself in his attic bedroom after dosing a trio of girls with an experimental drug without their consent. Just saying. That E.G., kind of a dick. We get a flashback wherein E.G.'s dad predicts that their baby will be a boy and that his name should be E.G., which means eternity's child. He also says E.G. will look like him and become a great scientist, and son of a bitch! He's reincarnating himself through science. Am I right? Holy shit. Anyway, he then walks out into the ocean and disappears. And son of a fuck, I'm right, aren't I? Goddamn, Satō. All you had to do was make a guinea pig movie, but you decided you were too much of a fucking cinema stud to do anything that basic. I respect your balls. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil whether I was right or wrong in that guess. Suffice it to say, shit continues to be pretty weird and more or less contrary to the title and marketing. We get one big final twist to Rika's character that's not necessarily surprising, but definitely satisfying and presented in a bonkers, low-key, terrifying way. And of course, we get the best use of Cactus VR in all of cinema. Splatter, Naked Blood is not really a pink film. It's definitely violent, and there's a touch of nudity and a little sex, but nothing terribly exploitative on that carnal side of things. Thematically, it touches on loneliness, alienation, generational trauma, voyeurism, and of course, the convergence of pain and pleasure. I probably missed something. Addiction. You forgot addiction. You fucking moron. But that's only because there's so much to take in, and by the time I reached the conclusion, my mind was properly blown. Not just by the various twists and what the fuckery on display, but also by how much it really doesn't match its title. Sure, yes, the gore is extreme, but it's also a very small part of a highly accomplished, engaging, and ambitious film. Don't let the lunchtime labia antics turn you away from the Japanese Cronenbergian dreamscape that you never knew you needed. So, what did we learn today? Well, for one thing, it turns out I really like Hisayasu Satō. His films, while dealing with horrific subject matter, tend to have something to say about alienation amongst Japanese society at the very least, and in dealing with that and other themes, he utilizes a dream logic approach that makes just about anything work within the context of his warped world. His directing style is assured and chaotic in measured doses. He's very attuned to his profession, which makes sense as he has made a fuckload of movies. Not to the degree of, say, a Jess Franco or Takashi Miike, but still quite a body of work. And after watching these 6 films, I'm pumped to watch more. Hell, I'm willing to bet that by the end of 2023, I will have completed his filmography. Dude's my jam. Ah, jam. Now, that being said, I'm not sure I really got the pink film experience here, such that it is. Office Lady Care Bear Stare Devouring the Giant Tits is perhaps the closest thing to what I expected, but even that is shockingly subversive. Perhaps I'm just mischaracterizing the entire genre, and most of it's like this, but since this is such a broad genre encompassing decades of films, I guess I'll just have to find out with more research. Ah, dang. Woe is me. We may just have to do another one of these Pinku marathons before next Valentine's Day. Tarnations. So yeah, I enjoyed this journey into the Satō realm so much, I decided to watch another of his films, Celluloid Nightmares, and you can find that review over on my Patreon page. Link in the description, because there's no way in fuck I'm making money on this video. Go watch a movie.
E カップマドンナなんです。